I remember the night it began, not with a loud crash or a confrontation, but with a silence too sharp, too careful. My wife, Elena, lay beside me in our bed, but her body seemed tethered elsewhere. I felt the distance long before I understood the cause. Her breaths were steady, but not relaxed. Her phone glowed faintly on the nightstand, its screen turned downward, as if it were hiding something from me. We had been married for 7 years, years that had woven comfort and monotony into the fabric of our days. I thought I knew every contour of her smile, every tremor in her voice. Yet lately, her laugh carried a note unfamiliar to me, softer, secretive, and never shared in my presence. I began to realize I wasn't the recipient of her joy anymore. Elena worked for a man named Damien Harlow. Wealthy, influential, and charming in a predatory sort of way. He ran his company with the same arrogance that filled every room he entered. I had met him once at a holiday party. His handshake lingered too long, his eyes flickered toward Elena as though I weren't even standing there. She brushed it off, called me paranoid, said men like Damien flirted with everyone because it was just his way. But I knew. I saw the hunger in his gaze. The first real crack came one evening when Elena claimed she had to stay late for a strategy meeting. That wasn't unusual, her job often demanded odd hours, but something in her tone caught me. It wasn't the exhaustion of a dedicated employee. It was excitement, poorly masked, spilling into every word. When she left, I stared at the empty doorway, unable to shake the gnawing thought that she wasn't going to any meeting at all. That night, I waited for her to return. Midnight crept past, then 1, then 2. She arrived at last, hair tousled, perfume slightly faded, her blouse wrinkled in a way no office chair could explain. She smiled when she saw me awake, but the smile was brittle. "You didn't have to wait up," she whispered. I didn't answer. I just studied her face, searching for truth in the cracks of her lies. The signs multiplied in the days that followed. Quick phone calls answered in hushed tones, sudden changes in her wardrobe, dresses I hadn't seen before, lingerie receipts tucked between grocery lists. She had a new energy about her, a glow that wasn't mine to claim. Every time I touched her, she recoiled slightly, as though guilty, as though my touch reminded her of what she was hiding. I told myself I was imagining it, that paranoia was twisting me into a jealous fool. But deep down I already knew. Lust has a scent, betrayal leaves traces, and I could smell both on her skin. One evening, I found her in the kitchen, scrolling her phone. She didn't notice me enter. Her lips curled upward, her cheeks flushed in a way they hadn't for me in months. When I coughed softly, she jumped, locking the screen instantly. "Work email," she muttered. "But no email makes you smile like that." I tried to confront her gently. "Elena, are you happy? With us?" The question hung heavy in the air. She looked at me, eyes wide, mouth half open as though words had failed her. Then she laughed, too quickly, too forced. "Of course I'm happy," she said, leaning to kiss me. But her lips were cool, detached, and the taste was foreign. That night, as I lay awake listening to her soft breathing, I felt a strange blend of rage and sorrow churn inside me. Betrayal is a silent intruder. It slips through unnoticed until it's already taken everything. I wanted to deny it, to cling to the illusion that she still belonged wholly to me. But in my gut, I knew she had given herself to another man, and not just any man, her boss, the one who had smirked at me as if daring me to challenge him. I closed my eyes, my fists tightening around the sheet. Something dark began to bloom inside me. If Elena thought she could bury me beneath her lies, if Damien believed he could take what was mine and walk away untouched, then both of them were about to learn that I was not the kind of man who suffered humiliation quietly. Doubt corrodes the soul more effectively than any blade. It eats, it gnaws, it multiplies until nothing remains but a raw need for truth. After weeks of living in that fog, I decided I couldn't endure suspicion alone. I needed proof. If Elena thought she could weave lies into our life unnoticed, then I would unravel every thread myself. The first step came on a Tuesday night. She left, claiming she was attending another late planning session. Her tone was smooth, practiced, almost bored with the excuse she had repeated so many times. But this time I followed. I waited 10 minutes after she drove off before taking my car, keeping far enough behind that my headlights wouldn't betray me. Her route didn't lead toward her office. Instead, she turned onto a side street, lined with boutique hotels and upscale restaurants. I kept my distance as she pulled into the dimly lit lot of a luxury hotel. My chest tightened, breath growing shallow. She parked, smoothed her hair in the rearview mirror, and walked inside with the kind of confidence that came from familiarity. This wasn't her first time there. I sat in my car, the steering wheel trembling under my grip, watching her disappear into the revolving door. My stomach twisted, rage clawing at the inside of my ribs. I wanted to storm in, drag her out, demand explanations. But another voice, colder, sharper, urged patience. Fury can destroy, but patience can devastate. I stayed put, memorizing the name of the hotel, the exact time she arrived. Hours later, she emerged, her blouse slightly unbuttoned, cheeks flushed. Damien followed a few paces behind, his tailored suit jacket slung casually over one shoulder. They didn't walk together, but their connection was undeniable, thick in the air between them. He looked like a predator well-fed, she like prey who had learned to enjoy the bite. When Elena reached her car, she checked her phone, smiling faintly. Damien smirked to himself before turning the opposite direction. I ducked lower in my seat, every nerve in my body screaming as if caught in fire. When she returned home that night, she slipped into bed quietly, as though hoping I was asleep. I wasn't. My eyes traced the ceiling, unblinking, while she rested beside me. Her perfume clung to her skin, different from the scent she usually wore. I recognized it instantly. It was the same fragrance I'd once bought her during a trip we took together, years ago, when love still ruled our marriage. Now, she wore it for him. The following days brought more evidence. Hotel receipts tucked between old grocery lists, lipstick-stained napkins buried at the bottom of her purse, even strands of hair I knew weren't hers tangled on the passenger seat of her car. Every discovery was a blade to my chest, but instead of killing me, the pain sharpened me. It taught me patience, precision, restraint. I started studying Damien. I researched his company, tracked his schedule, learned his habit. He enjoyed cigars after meetings, frequented the same upscale gym each morning, and often stayed late at the office long after his employees had gone home. He was methodical, disciplined, arrogant enough to believe he was untouchable. One night, Elena showered before bed, humming softly as though life was perfect. I slipped her phone from the nightstand. The lock screen fought me, but eventually I cracked her password. My hands shook as I scrolled through her messages. There they were, hundreds of texts, some brief, others dripping with longing. She told him things she hadn't told me in years, shared jokes, secrets, and promises. The most damning were the photographs, carefully angled shots that burned themselves into my memory. My heart felt crushed, pulverized into dust. But beneath the sorrow, beneath the humiliation, a strange calm spread through me. Proof had finally replaced suspicion. I wasn't mad anymore, I was resolute. Elena and Damien thought they had built their secret kingdom beyond my reach. What they didn't know was that I had already breached the walls, and soon, I would set fire to everything they had constructed together. When Elena emerged from the bathroom, she climbed into bed beside me, pressing her damp hair against my shoulder. I didn't flinch. I didn't let my rage show. I wrapped an arm around her as though nothing had changed. Because if I wanted revenge, brutal, undeniable revenge, I couldn't allow her to see the storm raging behind my eyes. So I whispered, "I love you," into the darkness, though the words tasted like poison, and she smiled, thinking the lie belonged to her alone. Betrayal no longer stung, it pulsed like a steady drumbeat, guiding me, feeding me. Pain had turned into focus. My rage wasn't an uncontrollable blaze anymore, It had cooled into something sharper, something deliberate. That was the night I realized. Revenge couldn't be rushed. To crush them both, I needed patience, precision, and cruelty masked beneath kindness. At home, I played the part of the loyal husband flawlessly. I cooked her favorite meals, left flowers on the counter, even surprised her with weekend plans. Elena smiled more often, mistaking my calm for acceptance, maybe even renewed affection. She had no idea I already knew every sordid detail of her late meetings. No clue that I had read her promises to Damien, each one cutting deeper than the last. My act became armor, my lies were sharper than hers. During those weeks, I shadowed Damien from a distance, learning him the way a hunter studies prey. His routine was infuriatingly consistent. Mornings at the gym, afternoons locked in meetings, evenings split between the office and his penthouse. He loved control, discipline, power. But arrogance blinds even the sharpest man, and Damien never glanced over his shoulder. He thought the world bent to his will, including my wife. I also began sowing seeds with Elena. Small, subtle questions disguised as casual curiosity. How's work been? You seem so tired lately. Are they piling too much on you? She would deflect with a laugh, a quick kiss, an excuse rehearsed 100 times. I nodded, feigning belief. Inside, I counted every syllable of every lie. The more I studied them, the clearer the shape of my revenge became. I didn't want to simply expose the affair. No, public humiliation wasn't enough. They would have endured it, even twisted it into some passionate defense of love. That would never satisfy me. My revenge needed to be final, absolute, fatal. I began with the hotel. One evening, while Elena was out, I visited the same luxury spot she favored with Damien. The receptionist didn't recognize me, but she didn't need to. A small bribe bought me access to the reservation logs. There, in black and white, was their history, dates, times, room numbers. I copied everything. Each line was a nail in the coffin I was building for them. At home, I hid the files in a locked drawer, beneath stacks of mundane papers. Elena never checked. She trusted me too much, even while betraying me. That irony almost made me laugh. But I wasn't just gathering evidence. I was building opportunity. I needed the perfect moment, a stage where both of them would be together, vulnerable, and unaware of my presence. I began calling in favors quietly. An old friend who worked in private security, a cousin with access to tools better left unmentioned. None of them knew my real plan. I fed them pieces, keeping the puzzle whole only in my mind. Meanwhile, I perfected the art of pretending. I joined Elena for dinners, listened to her talk about office gossip, even laughed at her joke. She grew comfortable again, lowering her guard completely. At night, when she curled into me, I let her. Sometimes she even initiated intimacy, desperate to maintain our facade. I played along, though in those moments I felt nothing but cold calculation. Every touch was a rehearsal for her undoing. The hardest part wasn't anger, it was restraint. I dreamed of ending it quickly, of tearing their secret world apart with one violent gesture. But that would rob me of the satisfaction I craved. I needed them to feel fear, shock, and realization all at once. I needed their final moments to be drenched in the knowledge that they had underestimated me completely. One night, as Elena slept, I sat at my desk, staring at the stack of evidence. My heart was calm, my mind clear. I wasn't the broken man she thought she'd left behind. I was something new now, reborn in betrayal, sharpened by deceit. I whispered to myself, testing the words on my tongue, "They'll pay. Together." And in that moment, the first real shape of my plan crystallized. It wouldn't be long before Elena and Damien discovered just how dangerous a betrayed man could be when he finally stopped weeping and started plotting. By the time weeks bled into months, my rage had distilled into something far more dangerous: patience. Every movement I made, every word I spoke, carried purpose. I wasn't a grieving husband anymore. I was an architect, laying blueprints for destruction. Elena and Damien thought they were clever, that secrecy shielded them. What they didn't realize was that I had already slipped into their world, rearranging the walls around them. The first step of my plan was to ensure they trusted their rhythm. If I'd confronted Elena too soon, suspicion might have driven them underground. I needed them relaxed, predictable. So I became indulgent. I encouraged her late nights, feigned indifference, even suggested she deserved more time to herself after such long weeks at work. She bought it instantly, mistaking my calm for surrender. Her guard dropped lower every day. Meanwhile, I kept close watch. Damien's patterns were etched into my mind. He wasn't careful, he was arrogant. His ego blinded him, convinced him that men like me posed no threat. After all, I was just the husband, the one left at home while his prize was stolen night after night. But arrogance, I knew, was always the weakest armor. I began crafting the stage for their downfall. The hotel was their sanctuary, their temple of secrecy. That made it the perfect stage for their ruin. I made discreet visits, slipping envelopes of cash to the right employees. A reservation system, when accessed by the wrong hands, can tell the truth better than any confession. I didn't just gather proof. I positioned myself to control when and how that truth was revealed. But exposure alone wasn't enough. I wanted something final, something permanent. So I wove myself deeper into Elena's confidence. One evening over dinner, I casually suggested we host a small anniversary trip. We could get away, just the two of us, I said. Her eyes flickered, hesitation, guilt, but she smiled quickly. That sounds wonderful. She thought it was a lie I told myself to keep our marriage alive. But in reality, I was planting seeds, priming her for a scenario where she wouldn't question an unexpected getaway, an invitation, or even a surprise. At the same time, I left subtle trails, enough for Damien to follow. I dropped hints in Elena's messages, carefully crafted, masked as though typed by her, leading him toward a meeting neither of them would suspect I orchestrated. I learned his vanity through their conversations. Damien loved secrecy, loved the thrill of stealing moments. I played on that, setting up a rendezvous that promised intimacy but instead would deliver devastation. Nights were the hardest. Pretending beside Elena while her phone vibrated with messages from him tested every ounce of my resolve. Sometimes I would lie awake, staring at the ceiling, imagining the precise moment their faces would twist in realization, when they'd finally understand the depth of my patience. I pictured Damien's smirk cracking into panic, Elena's confidence dissolving into horror. Those thoughts became my lullaby, the only way I found peace. I also prepared myself physically. Rage sharpens the body as much as the mind. I ran more, lifted more, trained more. Every bead of sweat was a reminder that when the time came, I wouldn't hesitate. My reflection in the mirror grew harder, leaner, colder. I wasn't simply a husband anymore. I was executioner, jury, and judge. The trap needed one last detail: timing. Both of them had grown so comfortable in their stolen world, I knew they would come running to any opportunity that promised secrecy. So I constructed the perfect lie. A conference Damien supposedly needed Elena to attend, an overnight stay arranged under his name, a room number sent through her phone that I had already taken control of. Everything aligned, the place, the time, the bait. As the night approached, Elena grew restless with anticipation, though she tried to hide it. I saw her eyes sparkle when her phone lit up, her hands trembling slightly as she tucked her clothes into a bag she thought I'd never notice. Damien, too, walked directly into the path I had carved for him, blind in his arrogance. I remember sitting in the quiet of our home, her perfume still lingering in the air after she left, my hands steady, my heart eerily calm. The stage was set. The actors were moving into place, and for the first time since I uncovered their betrayal, I smiled. Because soon, very soon, their world would collapse. Not with whispers, not with shame, but with finality carved in blood and silence. The night unfolded exactly as I had scripted it, as though fate itself bent beneath my design. Elena kissed me goodbye with feigned sweetness, whispering that she had another late meeting. She didn't notice that my eyes lingered longer than usual, or that my hand rested on her shoulder a second too long. She thought I was resigned. In truth, I was savoring the final time she'd ever lie to me. She left in a rush, her perfume trailing behind like smoke from a dying fire. I waited 15 minutes, then slipped out myself. My bag was packed, not with clothes, but with tools, evidence, and the quiet resolve of a man who had sharpened his rage into precision. The hotel lot was quiet when I arrived. My preparations were already in place. The receptionist, paid well enough to look the other way, had confirmed their check-in earlier that day. Room 614. I knew it before Elena even parked. I saw her first, stepping out of her car, her heels clicking against the pavement, hair done in a way she never bothered for me anymore. She looked radiant, eager, alive. Not for me, but for him. She hurried inside, glancing at her phone, smiling faintly at whatever message Damien had just sent. Minutes later, his car pulled up, sleek, black, arrogant. He emerged with the same predator's confidence I remembered from that holiday party years ago. He adjusted his cufflinks, smoothed his jacket, and strode inside as though the world itself belonged to him. I followed. My heart didn't race, my palms didn't sweat. I was calm, eerily calm, as though I'd been waiting my entire life for this single night. The elevator ride to the 6th floor was silent, but my mind buzzed with images of what awaited me behind that door. When I reached 614, I listened first. Laughter, muffled whispers, the rustle of clothes. Desire thick in the air. I knocked once, sharply. Silence followed, then Elena's voice. "Who is it?" I said nothing. I slid the master keycard, another purchase from the bride's staff, into the lock. The light flicked green, the handle turned, and I stepped inside. They froze. Elena stood by the bed, blouse half undone, eyes wide with shock. Damien straightened instantly, his smirk faltering as he recognized me. For a moment, none of us moved. The air itself seemed to shatter under the weight of realization. "Elena," I said softly, too softly, "I finally caught you." Her lips parted, trembling, words failing her. Damien tried to recover, tried to summon his arrogance. "This isn't what it looks like," he began, but even he seemed to choke on the cliché. I laughed. A deep, hollow sound. "Don't insult me with lies. I know everything. The text. The hotel logs. The gift. I know it all." Elena reached for me, tears already forming. "Please," she whispered. But I stepped back, out of her reach. Her touch no longer belonged to me. Damien's voice hardened. "You need to leave. This is between your wife and me." His arrogance returned like armor, but I saw the flicker of unease in his eyes. He still thought money, power, charm could save him. "Between you and her?" I said. "No. Tonight, it's between all three of us." I pulled the bag from my shoulder, unzipping it slowly. Inside, steel glinted under the dim light. Their faces shifted, Elena's horror, Damien's anger. They realized, too late, that this wasn't a confrontation. It was an execution. Elena sobbed, begging, swearing it meant nothing, that she still loved me. Damien stepped forward, trying to shield her, but his confidence faltered with each step I took closer. He wasn't a lion anymore. He was prey cornered in his own den. The rest unfolded in a blur of sound and fury. Shouts, cries, the desperate scramble of two lovers realizing their empire had collapsed. My hands were steady, my resolve unshaken. The plan I had carried in silence for months erupted into action, swift and merciless. When silence finally returned to that room, it was heavy, absolute. Two bodies lay motionless where passion had burned minutes before. The sheets were tangled, stained not with love but with betrayal's cost. I stood there, breathing evenly, surveying the destruction I had wrought. There was no triumph in me, no glee. Only an emptiness, vast and consuming, as though vengeance had carved out what little humanity I had left. But I had promised myself something, and I had delivered it. Elena and Damien would pay. Together. And now they had. The silence in that room stretched endlessly, broken only by the faint hum of the air conditioner. Two bodies lay tangled on the floor where their passion had once flourished, now lifeless, stripped of power and deceit. Elena's eyes were still open, wide with disbelief, as if she hadn't truly believed until her last breath that I would go this far. Damien's smirk was gone, his arrogance extinguished, his perfect suit stained. I stood over them, chest rising and falling steadily. My hands were steady too. No trembling, no hesitation, no second-guessing. I thought vengeance would burn me alive, leave me shaking and broken, but instead it carved me hollow, emptied me. What remained was silence, and in that silence I finally understood. Betrayal doesn't kill you, it transforms you into something unrecognizable. I worked quickly. The plan had never ended with their death. I knew that if I didn't control the aftermath, all of this would be for nothing. From my bag, I pulled the items I'd collected weeks prior. Disposable gloves, burner phone, cleaning supplies. Every detail had been considered, every step rehearsed in my mind 1,000 times. I staged the scene with care. Damien, the wealthy, reckless boss. Elena, the willing mistress. I left traces of their affair scattered deliberately, messages on her unlocked phone, receipts from the hotel bar tucked into his jacket. It didn't take much. Their own arrogance had already written the narrative for me. When investigators found them, it would look like passion turned violent, two lovers destroyed by the very fire they fed. I wiped surfaces, removed anything that tied me to the room. The keycard, the gloves, the tools went back into my bag. Not a trace left behind, not a footprint out of place. My exit was calm, practiced. Down the hallway, into the elevator, through the lobby where no one looked twice at me. Another shadow leaving a hotel where shadows were common. Driving home, I didn't feel fear. I didn't feel triumph either. The road stretched endlessly before me, streetlights flashing across the windshield like silent witnesses. My thoughts were strangely quiet, no longer tormented by suspicion or fury. The war was over, but peace didn't follow. Only emptiness. When I arrived, the house smelled of Elena, her perfume still lingering on the couch, her shoes by the door, the faint trace of her shampoo in the bathroom. Ghosts of her lingered in every corner. I sat in the kitchen, staring at the table where we'd shared dinners, birthdays, quiet mornings. My chest tightened, not with regret, but with the cruel recognition that I had loved her once, truly loved her. And she had chosen to burn it all for a man who saw her as nothing more than a conquest. The news broke 2 days later. Headlines screamed of tragedy. Wealthy CEO and married employee found dead in hotel room. The story spread quickly. Speculation of a heated affair gone wrong, theories of murder-suicide. Damien's reputation shattered instantly. Elena's name was dragged through mud she had chosen herself. Neither of them could defend their honor now. And me? I was invisible. Just a grieving husband who had no idea his wife was living a double life. The world pitied me, comforted me, never once suspecting that the victim they mourned had died beside her killer. In the weeks that followed, people told me how strong I was, how unfair life had been to me. Friends visited, offering condolences, meals, prayers. I accepted their sympathy with quiet nods, with a performance honed sharper than any blade. No one saw the truth beneath my calm. No one asked the questions they should have. And in that silence, I realized my revenge had been perfect. Brutal, final, complete. Yet perfection doesn't heal. Nights stretch long, haunted not by guilt, but by absence. I lie awake in a bed that feels too large, in a house too quiet, and I wonder if perhaps vengeance stole more than betrayal ever could. I rid myself of liars, but in doing so, I rid myself of love, too, even the illusion of it. Still, I don't regret it. They deserved their fate. Elena chose deception. Damien chose arrogance. I simply chose to end their story on my terms. When I look in the mirror now, I no longer see the man I was, the husband, the fool, the dreamer. I see something harder, darker, a reflection carved by betrayal and sharpened by revenge. And though the world may never know what I've done, I will carry the knowledge forever. Because in the end, the greatest revenge isn't justice, isn't closure, isn't even their death. The greatest revenge is surviving them both.